There is no one faithful like the Lord. Cleave to him and let him guide your steps.
Welcome to the Rocking Chair. Today we will be looking at Genesis chapter 36. I encourage you to pause the video and read the chapter for yourself. This is his story and this is his love for you. Chapter 36 of Genesis is a list of names with very little story involved. When you come to a chapter like this, you should zoom in first. Look at every name and dig out their significance. But then you should zoom all the way out to see how the chapter fits into the grand story of our timeline. The bulk of this video will be zoomed out on the grand narrative God is telling. Let me encourage you to zoom in on your own. There are some interesting details found in chapter 36. I also want to point out that Esau's line, the Edomites, are nowhere to be found in the lineage of Christ. As we progress through the Bible, we will see that Gentiles were included in the line of Jesus, so that the Son of God had a mixture of peoples on earth when he was born. However, remember that Esau is a child of Abraham. So you have children of Abraham from Jacob that we call Israel. And we have children of Abraham from Esau we call Edomites. Much later, Israel will swallow up Edom and forcibly convert them to Judaism, just 100 years or so prior to the birth of Christ. In fact, Herod the Great, the one who had all the children of Bethlehem killed while trying to kill the Messiah, was an Edomite. This concludes the extent of which I will zoom in on this chapter. Now, let's zoom out and talk about big stories, generational stories that relate to chapter 36. Verse 6 says this: Esau took his wives and sons and daughters and all the members of his household, as well as his livestock and all his other animals and all the goods he had acquired in Canaan, and moved to a land some distance from his brother Jacob. Their possessions were too great for them to remain together. The land where they were staying could not support them both because of their livestock. So Esau, that is Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir. Here is another example where two related people who were kin to one another, divided up their stuff and went separate ways because they had too many possessions and livestock for the land to hold them both. We saw this in Genesis chapter 13 with Abram and Lot, and now we see it here with Esau and Jacob. I want to point out that eventually, with both of these groups of people, a mountain is involved, and mountains represent governments. Mount Seir is not really one mountain. It is a collection of mountains, but in Scripture, it is referred to in the singular, typifying one government. Mount Sinai is also referred to in Scripture as a singular mountain, and it is a singular mountain because Moses ascended and descended it. But let me say, and this is important to the analogy I am building toward, that we do not know where Mount Sinai is exactly. It has been hidden by time. But we do know exactly where the region of mountains are that we call Mount Seir today. So we have thus far an illustration of two types of governments. One government that belongs to God, that is invisible to us, but never changing and singular, because we don't know the exact location or mountain involved, and numerous secular governments that is still accessible to all of us if we wish to go there and explore it. Again, I want to make this clear. A mountain represents a government and authority. Mount Seir is a collection of mountains, typifying the numerous secular governments, and Mount Sinai is just one government that typifies the government and authority of God, but is a government that we can no longer locate. In each example of two related people having to go separate ways because the land could not hold them both, we have persons chosen by God, Abram and Jacob, And then we have persons not chosen by God, Lot and Esau. In both examples, God will eventually redeem the persons not chosen through the persons who are chosen. With regard to Lot, this happens when the Moabites are included into the lineage of Christ through Ruth. Remember that the Moabites were created through the procreation of Lot with his daughters. And with regard to Esau, or Edom, they will eventually be included with Israel about 100 years before Christ is born on earth. But before we come to the eventual redemption of all peoples, let's look closer at the experiment that God sets up on earth in order to prove the supremacy of his government. And make no mistake, God is a God who establishes experiments in order to prove truth. He is the ultimate scientist as well as the ultimate economist. God is all-knowing and all-powerful, and he is in the beginning and in the end at the same time. Nevertheless, although God knows everything before it happens, he still runs an experiment in order to qualify the truth. I tell you this to prepare you for the future. If you have just began your relationship with God, he already knows everything you will do, where you will succeed and where you will fail. But he must put you through the tests of time to qualify the truth, and so that you can see for yourself how you are either progressing or failing. Now that we have the story from the mouths of two different witnesses, or in this case, from the examples of two different Bible stories, I would like to lay out what might be a possible deeper meaning to the story. Two different accounts of people who are in close relations having to separate on account of there not being enough room harkens back to the very beginning of time when God and Satan began doing a work in the earth. Remember that Satan was given dominion over the earth, and for a long time it was God who was the guest on this planet. This is because God kicked Satan out of heaven, and then Adam, God's agent on earth, gave Satan the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. This is why after Christ died, he descended into hell and took those keys from Satan, because the death of Christ repurchased the creation he made with his own word. We will come back to this in a moment toward the end of the story, because the death of Christ changes the dynamics of the ultimate competition between Satan and God. Before we end this video, I intend to open your eyes to just how shrewd of a God we serve and how confident you can be in placing your trust in him, because he cannot be outwitted. So Abram strikes a deal with Lot. Choose the direction you wish to settle in, and I will move in the opposite direction. Therefore, Lot chose convenience. He chose city lights where anything could be had at a price. All of the worldly comforts and fleshly satisfactions could be had in this city. There was no justice in this city, which means you could do whatever you were big enough to do and get away with. Likewise, Esau moved to Mount Seir, where he would establish his own civilization and his own government. The secular governments of this world operate on natural law, and natural law is the law of the jungle. Take what you want from those smaller and weaker than you. Do unto others before they can do unto you. In a secular government, everyone works toward their own interests, and the systems that develop out of this motivation by greed is a system where most people can flourish if they understand the game of greed. I will help those who in turn can help me. I will develop alliances with like-minded individuals in order to cheat the other people in my society. A secular government is advanced forward on the evolutionary advantage of sex and violence. Men will compete for the highest quality women and therefore work hard for the largest homes, best food, expensive clothes, and jewelry. Women, in turn, will compete for the most alpha males through looks and sexuality, attempting to attract the most worthy mate for protection and for earnings. Notice love is not involved in this process whatsoever, and this describes a secular worldview where the society is motivated by sex. However, how do you deter bad behavior in this society? Through violence. A person living in Satan's garden will behave themselves in such a way as to keep other people from doing violence to them. They will obey the rules when they have to and ignore the rules when they can. And this is why there is so much corruption in secular governments, because everyone is behaving in their own interest. Everyone can be bought for the right price. Anyone will look the other way if there is a chance they might be swept up in the scandal that they expose. No one does anything for the sake of truth or being right itself. Everyone is doing what they can to gain an advantage over someone else. This is why Mount Seir is a collection of mountains and not a single mountain like Sinai, because these secular governments rise as long as the corruption is kept small, but fall and collapse once the corruption and injustice is so bad that the peasants rise up to kill the ruling class. Soon after, another secular government will rise in its place, and the cycle of death will repeat. And this was the garden that Satan planted. This is the mountain Satan established his government on. He is the ultimate humanist, promising to give you anything you want, when you want it, and as much as you want. Don't worry about getting too full. Your stomach will extend itself. The law on this mountain is self-preservation. Everyone looks out for themselves, and as a result, a particular economy developed based upon cooperation for survival. God, on the other hand, started small. Remember, he is a guest in the earth right now, but not forever. He chose one man, Abraham, and then one people, Israel, and he gave his people a law to live by. In God's government, people live by faith and love. Everyone in God's government is working hard every day to outserve everyone else. Those who belong to God are not competing for the top position, but for the lowest, because in God's government, the lowest servant is the highest ruler. And the reason this works is because it is true. I encourage you to think about your own children. You are the authority over them, and you have all power over your children. Yet you serve them with a house and a bed. You go to work every day to buy them clothes. You take them to the doctor and clean up their messes. You cook for them and serve them their meals and make sure they are eating their vegetables. On special occasions, you buy them gifts without expecting anything in return. Are you not their leader? By worldly standards, they are your leader. By worldly standards, you are their slave. But you see, it is not true. The truth is that the servant is the leader. It is the same in the military. I saw this when I joined and could not believe that a government organization got it so right. In the military, the higher ranks serve the lower ranks, equipping them, training them, leading them, feeding them, clothing them. In the military, the lowest ranks eat first. A private will sit down at a table and eat before a general, and likely the general is the one serving the food. Jesus said it like this: who has more power, the one serving the food or the one eating the food? Well, of course, when you think about it, the one serving the food has more power, because the one serving the food has the food, and the one being served wants the food. But wait, there is more. In God's government, no one is exempt from this law, the law of faith and love. Even God himself obeys the law, because God himself, the one who told us that the lowest server will have the most authority in his kingdom, serves us. He does not just serve us, but he serves everyone on the planet, even those who don't recognize him as God, because he sends the rain in its season and provides the earth with ecosystems of food. so that everyone can eat, even the animals we feed upon. He gives us the night to sleep and the day to work. He served us with life and love and friends, but more than all the natural resources and abundance of the earth. He came down from heaven to be an example for us and said to us, "The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve everyone else." So, from the time of Abram and Lot, and from the time of Jacob and Esau, the many secular governments in this world has been competing with the one everlasting government of God. And although the government of God started small, and the government of Satan has ever been large, God has been slowly taking over the garden of Satan for generations, little by little. And the reason that God will indeed eventually take over the garden of Satan is because God's government is established on reality and truth. What I have described so far is history. In history, God has had a government here on earth through the people of Israel and has slowly wreaked certain individuals from Satan's government. But what about us? This really does not describe the circumstance we find ourselves in today. There is no strictly Christian government that competes with the secular governments of the world. But today we find those people who belong to God's kingdom mixed into the secular governments of the world. The Christian today must live for God according to the laws of God's government, while still living within a secular system of government where greed motivates everyone who lives among us. Does the Bible have anything to say about this situation? Yes, it does. When Christ came into the world, he purchased the entire creation along with us with his death on the cross. He is no longer a guest on this planet, but he took back the keys, and he is now the landlord. Let's look at Matthew chapter 13. Verse 24 starts a parable by Jesus. Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. The other servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. The servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" "No," he answered, "because while you are pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn." And this, my friends, is where we find ourselves in history. We are the wheat living among the weeds. Jesus is indeed owner of the field now, but we have been commanded to leave the weeds alone for now, until it is time for the harvest, and the Lord will separate the good from the bad. Until that time, we are to live under two different governments, obeying the government of God while satisfying our obligations to the government of the world. So for now, here we are, you and I, wheat planted in a field that doesn't belong to us yet, growing side by side with weeds that sometimes look stronger, taller, and louder. Some days the sun feels like it's shining only on them. Some days their roots seem to choke ours. Some days we wonder why the owner doesn't just come now, swing the sickle, and end the waiting. But look closer. Every breath you take is grace from his hand. Every sunrise you see is mercy he gives even to those who curse him. Every time you choose to serve when you could dominate, to forgive when you could crush, to love when it costs you something, you are proving, without an audience applauding you, that his government is not a dream. It is the only reality that lasts. He could have come in power and burned the field clean long ago, but he waits, not because he is weak, but because he is kind. He waits because there is still one more weary soul who might look at you, see something different growing in you, and whisper, "I want that too." So keep shining, keep bending low in service, keep trusting the hand that planted you. The night has been long, but the owner of the field is not sleeping. He walks these rows every day, touching every stalk he paid for with his own blood. He knows exactly which is wheat and which is weed. And when the harvest comes, he will not lose a single grain that belongs to him. This is the Rocking Chair, and you are listening to my permutations. The next Rocking Chair video will be on Genesis chapter 37. John 6, 35, 37, and 39 says, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never thirst. All who the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me I will never drive away. And this is the will of him who sent me, that I would lose none of all those he has given me, but raise them up on the last day. His tender mercies are new every day. His love never fails. There is an unfaithful like the Lord. He is a true friend that stays closer than even a brother." This is his story, and this is his love for you.